quick peek, if you don't want to listen to this entire video, I do have the blog form linked below. Hello! We are filming the wrap-up today. I had a very up and down several months of reading, so we are going to do the August, September, and October wrap-up in this one video. Probably how I do all my wrap-ups, because I read like 3 books in August, and I read like 12 plus books in October. So we're going to do them all together, and I'm going to give a rating and then a brief description of what it's about. So we're just going to go ahead and get right into that. Starting off with August, one of the first books I read was Afterlife of the Party by Marlene Perez, and I do not care. Anything Marlene writes, I am giving a 5 stars. I do not care. The main character goes with her best friend to a concert to a terrible band, but her friend likes him, so Tansy goes anyway. Unfortunately, this was possibly the worst mistake she could ever make, because Tansy ends up having to chase her friend all over the place because A, her friend got turned into a vampire, B, she got kidnapped by the vampire that turned her. The other book I read was a manga, and it was Little Monsters Volume 1 and 2, and so cute. The whole thing that got me started on this genre of anime or of manga was Honey So Sweet, because it was the cutest thing I've ever read in my life. I have one more volume of it. I'm probably going to do a reading vlog on that, because I have been holding off on reading it just because I don't want it to be over yet. But I also want to know the end. So My Little Monster is basically this stoic girl. She's super focused on school and being the best and everything, and there's this dude bro who's like super scary, and she is not super intimidated by it. She ends up getting involved with him, and he ends up developing a crush on her because she is super nice to him comparatively to other people that are not nice at all to him. Super recommend. 3.5 to 4 stars, I'd say. Snow White with the Red Hair is another manga, and it's so cute. Oh my god. I gave this one a solid 4 stars, and I still have a few more to read, and I have a couple more to buy. I ended up buying like a bunch of them, 1 through 13, and I still have I think 3 more after that to buy to complete my collection. I absolutely love any kind of fairy tale retelling. It is one of my favorite things to read. I don't know if it's a genre in and of itself or just a trope. I don't even know for sure, but I love it and I'll read it. Marissa Meyer's Lunar Chronicles is one of my favorites right now. But like Snow White with the Red Hair, how are you gonna get double kidnapped? How are you gonna have 2 fine dudes that want you? You already know one of them wants you. A cold crowned prince, a flighty second prince, and a prince spoiled and doesn't know how to take no for an answer. And they are all centered around a strong, opinionated, heart of gold girl that they each love in their own special way. Except for the spoiled prince. He thinks asking somebody to be a concubine is a freaking compliment. And my final read for August was Better Together by Christine Riccio, also known as Poland Bananas. I am loving watching her grow as a writer. I am so excited to see all her writing vlogs, and I am so happy she has made it to where she wants to be, which is a booktuber, which she probably, I mean, she didn't mean to be a booktuber when she started it, but she's up there, and she is now a published author, and I'm so happy for her. However, the book is no more than a 3 for me. It is contemporary, and that's immediately points off for me, because I don't typically read them. I have started reading them more, but I don't typically read them. They're not typically my favorite. So keep that in mind. But as far as the summary goes, think Freaky Friday crossed with The Parent Trap, except they're adults, the parents are toxic, and they are just 2 girls trying to figure out their role in life and where they want to be, because their initial plans are just not working out. For September, I think September might have had the most of my favorite reads, but also in September, I was on a pirate-esque, swashbuckling, mermaid siren-ish type of vibe, and I don't know where it came from, but I was living for it. The first 2 reads are Fable and Namesake, and I'm putting those together because they are a duology by Adrienne Young. I give this a solid 4 to 4.5 stars. The first book is about Fable, who gets left on an island, a pretty rough and tough island, by her father, and he says, "Find your way back to me, and you will get what's yours." Following that, the second book She ends up, this is kind of spoilery-ish, but I think this can be expected from this type of book. But she gets kidnapped by one of her father's rivals and ends up a ploy in another person's plan, and she ends just like Lost Princess vibes all around. A Deadly Education by Naomi Novik was a 5-star for me. I loved this book. I have tried to read the Harry Potter books a few times, and I just haven't fallen in love with them yet. I have watched the movies, and I do love the movies, and the book community is gonna come for my neck. Please don't. I can't get into the books as much, and I don't know if it's because I tried to read them after I heard all the stuff about J.K. Rowling and figured out what kind of person she was, but maybe that's it. I try not to support authors that I know have done bad things and are not really sorry about it. It's one thing to be unintentionally offensive, it's another thing to be outright. And I don't think, from what I've heard and what I've read about her and her, I don't know if that's what influenced that. But I do like magic schools. And the best way I can use to describe this is, keep in mind I'm coming from the movie perspective of Harry Potter. Harry Potter, but aged up, a little bit more aggressive, and the story is not told from the Chosen One's perspective. It's more so told from the person coming off like a villain. I 100% picked this up because I watched with Wendy's video, and she had mentioned the main character, Elle, was literally over here hating the Chosen One dude, but like swearing, just wait, I'm gonna save your life, and I'm just like, I vibes with it. The Invisible Life of Addie Larue. 5 stars. I love this book, and I don't know if it's because my standards were really low, because I had started reading, I usually don't put, I had started several books and read them, and up to that, that's why I had such a light month in August, actually. I had picked up several books that I just wasn't feeling. I finished them, they were good, I wasn't in love with them. And Addie Larue was the first one I picked up that I genuinely could not put down, or could not stop listening to, because I did listen to the audiobook, and I had heard a lot of people talking about how it was very slow and they didn't understand her decisions. My biggest problem with it would be the amount of whiteness in it for a story that takes place in France and somebody that has been alive forever, but for 300 years by the point of this story comes around, or towards the end of the story comes around. Those would be my biggest qualms with it. But basic premise, a girl just wants to be free, and she receives that freedom in the form of forgetting. Not herself, but everybody else who looks at her and looks away does in fact forget her. And she also has immortality, not invincibility, so she can live through a lot, but she definitely feels that pain. Now we are on to October, so a pretty light month. In September as well, every time I get into a slump where I'm just not reading a lot of books I like, I tend to slow down and end up working on other projects. But for October, the first book of that month that I read was You Are Next by Kaale. I give this book a solid 3 stars. It was fun. It was Nancy Drew-esque. Basic premise, a girl repeats history, going to find her friends kill her. This has happened before, and it doesn't seem like she's learned anything from the first time around. Soon she's going to discover a secret among the school that everybody seems to know but her. That Weekend by Kara Thomas it was a fun read. I didn't see the very end coming, but I knew something was sketchy. A girl lost the most important part of her memory, the 24 hours in which her best friends disappeared without a trace. As the search carries on, something is just not right, and the main character cannot figure out what it is. The Last Graduate by Naomi Novik. This is book 2 to A Deadly Education, the second book in the Skullman series, and I loved this one as well, although I freaking saw that ending coming. I knew he was gonna do that. Basically, Ella is in a different circumstance than she was in the first book, doing a bit better, making those connections, making new teams. She's good. However, as graduation is coming up fast, something's a little off, and the school needs her help. Alma Press's play, solid 3 stars. I love this. It's a novel, like an inverse novel, so it's very poetic and lyrical as it's being told. I did listen to it, so that helped to it. And the cover to this book is stunning. It's so pretty. But it is basically a coming-of-age story about a girl as she transitions into her teen years and kind of is discovering the beauty and hardships that come with life, especially as she faces her home life issues, what it means to be a woman or a girl, and what it means to stand her ground. The Lost Girls by Sonia Hartle, I don't know if I'm saying that right, 3.5. I love the concept of this so much, and I love that it ended up being that the main character ends up with somebody else. Sometimes love is not eternal, and nothing quite matches the vengeance of a woman scorned. Now times that by 3, and these 3 girls fight back. Etherbound by E.K. Johnston was my least favorite book this month. And several things irritated me about it. It was a very convenient story, and the audiobook had additional sound effects that I really didn't like because it kind of distracted me from the story. It made it I don't know, the sounds were really loud for them not supposed to be the main focal point of the audiobook. But long story short, a girl lives on a spaceship where every nutrient and breath is counted, and you have to earn each of those. The main character is not providing the same kinds of skill set her brothers and sisters have, and so she is viewed as useless. Tired of their abuse and living in a room where she can't even breathe properly, she takes the first chance she gets to get off that ship and start a new life. The Last Legacy. One of my favorites, and my only complaint was that it was too short. A girl sets out to fulfill her role within the family, but things are not quite as she expected, and she takes that opportunity and turns it into one that works for her, and she's going to carve out her own path. Instructions for Dancing by Nicole Yoon was a travesty. I did not expect to be, and it feels like that. I didn't appreciate it. But long story short, learning how to love again is hard, especially when all that surrounds you are unhappy endings. But a charming dance partner and a competition might persuade her otherwise. Small Favors by Aaron A. Craig, author of House of Salt and Sorrows, a book I never got to but continued to be on my TBR to this day. This book ended up being so much scarier than I thought it was going to be, so just heads up. Mind you, I don't typically read horror. But think Red Riding Hood mixed with Lord of the Flies in a small town setting. Strange happenings around a small town trap them there for winter, and their dwindling supplies are not helping anything. Fear spreads like a virus, or maybe there's something else causing the disturbances. Siri Who Am I by Sam, I can't pronounce that last name. A girl wakes up in the hospital and can't remember anything at all from her life, but she remembers things like keeping up with the Kardashians and things like that. So she is convinced something traumatic had to have happened, because who loses their memory like that? She goes on a journey to rediscover herself in more ways than one. Anxious People by Frederick Backman. I did not finish this book. I don't know what it's about. I started listening to it, and it was not for me. Sorry. And I also read Ao How to Ride, volumes 7 through 9, and the series is if these guys don't just. If they don't just. I don't know if you've read this or not, so I'm not going to give you any spoilers for the specific volumes. I'm just going to give you the general overview of the series. Basically, a boy and a girl had a crush on each other back in middle school, and they were supposed to meet up, never did. The boy disappears for a few years, comes back into high school, where the girl recognizes him almost, not immediately, but she recognizes him, and she tries to figure out what happened and what changed him into this cold person. And The Witch Haven. 5 stars. I loved this book. Another magic school book, where the witches can develop the powers, or their powers can arise in times of deep stress or life-threatening circumstances. A girl's brother has been murdered. Her mom is in an insane asylum, and she is working for a pervert. Her life could get worse, but it's pretty bad right now. A traumatic event triggers her magic, and the next day, 2 people from the school show up to take her to her new home, where she'll learn to control her powers. Now that she's got a little bit of power, though, and she's finding out there's more to the world than she originally thought, she's ready to find her brother's killer. My top 5 picks for this month my favorite reads for this wrap up were The Witch Haven, A Deadly Education, Last Graduate, Afterlife of the Party, and The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. Thank you so much for joining me as I went over my entire read. Be back with another video on my November reads coming up soon. Check out my blog, links below. On the side of side notes, I am also an author. This is London Boy, and it came out in June. It's about a girl who goes an internship to escape her grief and to kind of just take a break, get away, find a little distraction, and nail her internship. The hardback is available, and if you wait a little bit to get the hardback, the short stories will be releasing in December, and those will be at the back, making it a special edition. Can't thank you enough for joining me. If you are a small booktuber and you would like to collaborate in any way, please hit the link to my blog, fill out one of those little forms. Let's get together and do something.